Thanks for joining us over at Mold Encyclopedia. Today we're going to be talking about pre-inspections and whether or not you should have one done. We get asked about pre-inspections a lot and whether they are worth it, so we're going to walk through that process really quick and whether a pre-inspection is necessary before you sell your home. A pre-inspection is typically done before your home is listed on the market for sale so that you can make sure that there aren't any major issues before you start getting offers. There are a couple of pros and cons, but we think ultimately the pros outweigh the cons, and it's typically a good idea to have a pre-inspection done before listing. To help explain why, we're going to go look at a house about to be listed on the market and see what we find in the crawl space. Come with us and take a look. All right, we're all suited up. We're going to jump down in the crawl space and check for mold. Main things we're going to look for are behind the insulation on the subfloor and the rim joist. A lot of problems can be hidden there. We want to make sure that's not an issue when they go to sell the house. We're going to check for missing vapor barrier and any groundwater issues that might be an issue. Those are kind of the big things that we look for, but we'll jump down and we'll see what we find. All right, now that we're down in the crawl space, we're going to shine the light around and take a look. Let me switch the camera around. So we have some missing vapor barrier here. Looks like a little bit of moisture intrusion. There's been a lot of snow melt, so that's probably why that's occurring. We've got some fallen insulation from the foundation wall. We're going to make note of that. That exposed soil can lead to humidity issues. No major issues on the subfloor. The joists are clean. The framing's clean. Like I said, no major issues. So we're going to keep looking. I accidentally bought the wrong size of Tyvek suit, so it's a little tight. It's really difficult to move around. Super big pain in the butt. So here we're going to grab this and pull it back. Sure enough, we got spiders, and worst of all, we got a pretty significant amount of mold right here. So all that is mold that's caused by humidity that's condensating on the cold joists. That's going to be a problem for these sellers. We're going to have to get that remediated before the house sells. Not good at all. Let's keep continuing around and seeing how far this goes. So we've pulled some more insulation down, and sure enough, we've got more mold growth on this rim joist. Looks like it continues pretty pervasively through the crawl space. It's worse in the corners. You've got some spreading to the subfloor right there as well. Some major humidity issues. It's also on these joists. Real unfortunate. This is pretty obvious mold growth. We don't necessarily need a lab to verify it, but sometimes it's good just to be on the safe side. A lot of people will question whether it's actually mold or not, especially in the case like this where it's going to be pretty expensive to remediate. They're going to want some verification that it actually is mold. So what we're going to do is we're going to collect a surface sample and we're going to bring that to the lab, and they can analyze and tell us whether it's mold, what kind of mold it is, and also whether it's toxigenic or not. It's pretty straightforward to get a sample. We're going to take a piece of tape. We're going to lift those spores from the surface. Obviously, there's quite a bit of mold throughout, so it's not going to be too hard to get a good sample. We want to make sure it's representing a whole area. We're going to take that. We're going to put it in a Ziploc bag. And we've got our sample. We've got more issues over here. The mold continues around the rim joist. My guess is that it's going to extend around the perimeter of the house. Right here, apparently we've got a large hornet's nest that has also been built into the rim joist. That's not good. Thankfully, that looks dead. If we pull down some of this insulation, you can kind of see some of that. Even the hornet's nest has started to mold. That's a pretty significant
hive. Thankfully the bees are gone, but we've still got some pretty significant mold growth. And man, that is going to be tough to remediate. Some beginning of some rot. It's very unfortunate, but all this is going to have to be pulled out and removed. This insulation will have to be replaced. Not good at all. Most of the subfloor looks good. We don't have any mold growth, no rot. Vapor barriers covering the crawl space floor. That all looks good. Crawl space is clean for the most part. But I think what we're going to suggest is that we get rid of the insulation around the rim joist and let that wood breathe a little bit. And hopefully battle some of these humidity problems with some better ventilation. Again, the tight Tyvek is making it real difficult to move around. Don't make that same mistake. Always get a Tyvek that fits right. It'll save you a bunch of pain in the crawl space. But for the most part, I think we've seen what we need to see in the crawl space. We're going to get this sample shipped off to the lab, and then we'll see what they say, and we'll get a report written up for the homeowner, and we'll go from there.
All right, thanks for joining us as we crawled through the crawl space. Unfortunately, found quite a bit of stuff down there that needs to be addressed. We're going to get our lab results back from the lab, and we'll figure out what to go from there. We'll get a report written up and make some recommendations for remediation. All right, thanks for joining us. So we just got our results back from the lab, and the main mold species identified was Stachybotrys. Stachybotrys is a toxigenic mold, and when you hear the term black mold, this is typically what they're referring to. The species type doesn't necessarily change what needs to be done to remediate, but it does confirm presence of mold in the crawl space, and we'll include those results in our report to the buyer. This likely will be an expensive issue to fix, and having a pre-inspection done will hopefully give the sellers time to figure out how they want to address the issue. If you'd like more information on inspections and just mold in general, head over to our website at moldencyclopedia.com. Thanks for joining us today. Please subscribe so that we can continue producing this content.